Yesterday I recorded a video about Stephen Fry's alternative Christmas message that apparently got a lot of people on Twitter very angry. I'm mainly focused on the fact that he had identified himself as a Jew, when as far as I was aware he was a quintessential English gentleman of the atheistic persuasion, as well as being by his own admission gay, which would go very much against not only the Christian worldview but also the Jewish. When I finished recording that video and had the chance to actually look back at the main video itself, as well as the reactions to it, I realised my point was going a bit off. Because whilst I still hold to the fact that Stephen Fry is technically as Jewish as I am Catholic, namely having ancestors who were of that race and religion, but we as people do not have the same practices or worldview, I found other people were taking it badly for a completely different reason. Ironically, it was the very same point that Stephen Fry was trying to make. The wave of anti-Semitism. Now, there are many famous Jews of both the heterosexual and homosexual persuasion being targeted by these anti-Semites in the media. Two that I know of are Miriam Margolyes, the voice of the Meep, and David Baddiel, a member of the Lightning Seeds, a very old band from way back in the day. All of this anti-Semitism seems to be in response to Israel's attack on Gaza and Palestine. An issue I thought was the main crux of Stephen Fry's speech on the first of the video. A video I'm not going to upload, and in fact have deleted, because I had so much wrong I needed to readdress it. I'm not afraid to admit that. I am, after all, imperfect. Unfortunately, the people who seem to be leading this wave of anti-Semitism are the people who seem to be trying to create perfection in the world, that being the woke. That is an interesting one, because woke people seem to be focused on spreading awareness of all cultures and beating down hate for those cultures. For example, speak out against people like ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and other such extreme Muslims, and you'll get hit with Islamophobia. Speak out against those who happen to be of the black ethnic minority, and you'll get lampooned as a racist. However, due to the fact that they are shouting against Israel launching missiles at Gaza, they are suddenly turning a blind eye to anti-Semitism, which is alarming. Now you might say, me being a Christian, I've been an anti-Semite. But I think that's a complete misunderstanding of the different worldviews, because people like Ricky Gervais would say that technically we are all atheists to a degree. And whilst technically he's not wrong, it sort of misses the point of what an atheist is. Because atheist literally means no God, or a non-believer in God. Any God. It doesn't specify a God. Theist doesn't specify Yahweh, it doesn't specify Allah, it doesn't specify Vishnu, Tyrannus, Kanunos, Jupiter, you name the God. Theist doesn't specify. It generalizes. And whilst in theory, atheist can be a general term for people that don't believe in a God, any God, to say that we're all atheist towards other religions is, I think, a bit of a nitpick concerning what we believe in. We still believe in a God, not the God that others believe in. But unfortunately, that would be way too broad a term. And certainly many people who speak out against religion, such as the atheist community of Austin, who I do a lot of my Reels runs based on, they identify more as anti-theist. So, does that mean I'm automatically anti-Semitic, Islamophobic? Someone who will bring hellfire down the pagans? No, it doesn't. Unfortunately, people keep forgetting that. And ironically, it is the people who believe they are the most open, most accepting, most those people that are willing to stand up for the people, if you will. Who seem to be getting it wrong in this case. Yes, Israel, a Jewish nation, is currently launching missiles. But does that mean that every single Jew is also doing the same? No. We're going right back to the state where we were basically having high levels of Islamophobia against any Muslim. any Muslim. Because of Al-Qaeda, because of ISIS, because of extreme Muslim groups. Accusing literally everyone wearing a hijab of being a terrorist. Looking at people doing yoga and saying, oh no, that seems an awful lot like praying to Allah. And half of them seem more inclined towards Indian Hinduism. And unfortunately, anti-Semitism is nothing new. You may think the classic anti-Semite is Hitler, but that's been going on for way, way longer. And those people who seem to be saying that they are the champions of all things good, they are the ones who are making this worse, much worse. What does that tell you about humans? We are blind to our own iniquities when we feel we're in the right. Everyone, in every war, regardless of which side you're on, they believe they are in the right. That's a scary thing. And because they are fueled with such righteousness, it is near impossible to get through to them. Ironically, this is getting into cancel culture stuff, which has quite recently sprung up in two areas that I'm actually rather sad about. First is the woke army raging against sorry, the focus there. I think I'll cut that actually. First was the culture wars going against the idea behind the Rings of Power, the TV adaptation of some of Tolkien's work. Now, I actually quite liked the Rings of Power as a TV show. Yes, there were some things that took the cake. There are some things that went against the grain of the Silmarillion, on which it was loosely based, purely because it had to be, as it didn't have the rights to the Silmarillion. Tolkien's family refused to give Amazon the rights. But some people seem to be overly focused on the fact that they did not like certain aspects of it. Some things could be explained in the law that they actually provided. For example, the wife of Durin IV. She was some sort of stone singer. And whilst true, it is well documented in both the books and the films that dwarf women could and did grow beards. The fact that people were overly focused on that, without looking at the lore surrounding it, was, in my opinion, rather short-sighted. Gatekeeping may have saved the films, as it were, but it doesn't exactly help. Next, we have the fact that they were focusing too much on Galadriel being a completely different character to the classic portrayal by Cate Blanchett. Now, I like the original trilogy's Galadriel. I like the Hobbit's portrayal of Galadriel. But I feel that this portrayal of Galadriel in The Rings of Power could still be considered part of that character. It's for the same reason that the orcs were different, that the Harfoots were different. Compared to the hobbits that we all know and love. People said they were savages. People said that they didn't really come around in that time of the age and so forth. People said that Gandalf wasn't the person they were expecting, far from it. Here's the thing you have to remember. Character development. Species development. That takes time. How much time? An awful lot of time. How much time do we have between the time of The Rings of Power and the Hobbit trilogy? I don't know exactly. But if we are to take the very basic information that we have regarding the story of the One Ring, we know that it was about 3,000 years between the War of the Last Alliance and Bilbo finding the One Ring. With the Rings of Power finishing at around the time the Three Rings were made, and as far as I'm aware, the One Ring hasn't even been made yet. We have over 3,000 years of development from the start of... I think we're still in the second age of the world. So, at the end of the day, there's an awful lot of character development still to go. Galadriel now has Narnia, the Ring of Water, and can very much be the ancient and powerful elven queen that she became in The Hobbit and later in The Lord of the Rings. If you bear in mind, 3,000 years pretty much the entire Bronze Age. That covers a good portion of human history. Cultures, kingdoms, even empires have risen and fallen in that time. The Harfords were very much hunter-gatherers. They were nomadic people. They could easily find time to settle down, change, and become the hobbits that they would become. The dwarves could change as well. And don't get yourself with Elrond. People forget the major lore things because they're all focused on the things they hate. And that's the second thing that got me annoyed about people's response to the new Doctor Who 60th anniversary specials. I actually like the specials. And yet people focused way too much on things that annoyed them. They're saying, "Ooh, I've lost interest now, don't want anything to do with it." That's entirely up to you, but why? They're focusing way too much on the left. RTD is being way too woke in bringing pronouns into it with the meep. I think that was a good scene for 3 reasons. Firstly, it's remaining current because Rose was very much, well, apparently she was non-binary, so would have been someone, and was of the very generation who would call out someone for assuming a pronoun. Second, it is something that the Doctor would miss out. You've got to remember that the Doctor evolves as a character over the thousands or millions of years that he himself has lived as a Time Lord. If you just take the, I don't know what his name was, David Bentley's portrayal as the first Doctor, he was very much sexist, not necessarily homophobic, but certainly not used to the idea of a gay woman, and had very, very different views on how to observe a different being. Rather than scanning it constantly with technology, just look at them, maybe through a monocle, but certainly not through sunglasses. And thirdly, instead of an interesting contrast with the meme, I don't know if it's a definite article, it's similar to the Doctor, but instead it was in a more narcissistic way, as the Meep did become very much a villain of the entire piece. By generation, people say it messes with the law. I don't think it does, but that's more of a law issue than anything else. I think some people just overly focus on those things that annoy them, to the exclusion of anything that makes it good. If you remember that not even classic Doctor Who gave the impression that William Hartnell was the first Doctor, since apparently more faces are coming out of his past lives. I don't remember what series it was, but it was certainly one of the elder series. 4th or 5th, I think. By generation? That could explain several things going on running parallel to the main series. So at the end of the day, there's no need to focus on things that overly annoy you. In pop culture, at the very least. And the same can be said with current events. Just because a Jewish nation is being violent towards another nation does not automatically mean all Jews are murderers. No. Just because there are some gun-toting Christians wearing pointy hats and declaring death to all black people in the Midwest of America doesn't mean all Christians are white supremacists. Just because some people are shouting powerful Islamic phrases and blowing themselves up in the middle of busy places to cause as much havoc as possible does not mean all Muslims are terrorists. This is lost on so many people. So many people. Granted, in pop culture, excuses have been terrible. Star Wars, for example, I have no excuse for them. They were just ridiculous in literally trying to defend a Mary Sue. In Lord of the Rings, they were terrible for blaming the original series for being non-inclusive. Russell T Davies lashed out at completely the wrong time, in completely the wrong way, to defend his work. When people get angry for ridiculous reasons, there's no need to get angry back. There's a reason why in my videos I don't tend to confront directly. I tend to do backseat work, if you will. These sort of videos. Response. They're one of the lowest form of videos on YouTube, but they allow us to take a moment to sit back, examine the situation, and respond appropriately. Not lampooning everyone left, right and centre. So take a back seat. Think about what you're saying to people before you say it. Understand people before you judge them for things that they say. And above all, don't judge people because of something their culture has done or is doing when there is no evidence whatsoever that they have been doing it themselves. I've never known Stephen Fry to make any suggestion of violence against anyone. Except maybe Lee Mack, but well, he was being an idiot in that programme. So, stay good, everyone. Take care of everyone. And have a happy new year. Then lose sight of the good that they're actually causing to go away. Whoa. That was interesting. Black ice there. That's a scary moment. Got to do a blooper reel. Okay.